Well, to finish, we are going to have a one-one conversation. Our final guest. Well, not every service has more than 1.5 billion users each month. 1.5 billion users each month. Launched in 2004, Facebook has made its mission to make the world more open and connected. People use Facebook to stay in touch with friends, family, to discover what's going on in the world, and share and express that what matters to them. And a lot of things that happen in the world and matters to people is football. To discuss about this, we have Glenn Miller, when we are going to have a discussion with him about engaged millions that require not only content, but also adequate distribution strategies, measure the right things, and have a move fast startup approach. Glenn is the head of Sports and Entertainment Partnerships Europe and Middle East for Facebook, and he has a long experience in sales and marketing strategies in companies such as Ticketmaster Entertainment, AAG Live, and CAA. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Glenn Miller. Yes, we are going to sit down. We are all people.
All right, done with the presentations today.
Yes. Thank you, Glenn, for being here.
Thank you.
That's very, very good for you. We have been talking a lot about this engagement. That is one of the most used concepts nowadays. It's a buzzword. Everyone uses it. And we have seen the numbers. Facebook is an engaging machine. But for all the experience that Facebook has as a company, what is really engagement? What is behind engagement?
I don't know, it's interesting. I think when you look at engagement, there's so many different ways to define it. At the very core of it on Facebook, it's a like, a comment, a share, a video view, or something we've realized now is that a lot of people are taking in the content, but never taking an action. And so how much time you spend on a post is now engagement, right? If you look at some of the marketers, to them engagement is, was I able to post something and get them to open up their wallet to pay for something, and so now I've made money. But for us at the core, it's actually someone taking your content and wanting to, quote unquote, engage with it. So did they read it? Did they watch it? Did they hear it? And so for us, when we're looking at engagement, we want your content to get out to as many people as possible.
So there is a problem that maybe us football clubs have with this focus in fans, having the ones who have many followers, many fans. What other tools, what other insights will be interesting for us to look at Facebook? Because Facebook is offering more than that.
Yeah, and I think it's important when you think about Facebook, it's like Facebook for us is ink, right? We've got the blue app, which is what I think most people think about when they think of Facebook. We've also got Instagram, we've got WhatsApp, we've got Oculus, so all the virtual reality stuff. So that's actually all Facebook. When we're thinking about tools that people are missing out on, there's actually, I think, a lot. Because I think when we look at how organizations are setting up, is they're setting up for Facebook of last year. And then next year, they'll be setting up for what Facebook is now. And so, we quickly change and pivot what we're working on. So one of the biggest things for us is video and being able to look at your insights and understand, is video working for you? How do you get more video on there? Who's watching my content? Who's engaging with it? And I think insights on Facebook is a hugely missed opportunity because some people think, oh, I can see what time of day people are looking at my content, or I can see what countries they're from. But the more that you work with us, we actually say, to me it's very exciting with a marketing background, is we end up having the most data on your fans than yourself or anyone will ever have, because it's their true identity. When people fill out surveys, they want to be seen or perceived a certain way. When they're on Facebook, they're on them as their true self. And so we get to see easily, what mobile devices do they use, what brands do they like, what music do they listen to, and depending on who we're working with, sometimes they program their stadium based on the music interests that we have in our insights. Or I think a good one, like England Rugby, we've been doing their Sweet Chariot campaign. So the Carry Me Home is actually turned into Every Voice Counts. And so if you've ever gone to any of the England home matches, you will see that they're trying to get everyone to record themselves singing Sweet Chariot, which then has turned into the official single that was released today. And the only way to be a part of it was via Facebook. And what we found out was that looking at the insights, the top two artists for England Rugby were actually Ollie Murs or Ella Eyre. And so we ended up going with Ella Eyre, who now sang it. So it's really easy to make these decisions based off of the insights, but a lot of people don't think to check the insights. Or even with a working relationship with Facebook, we can provide this data if we're working with you, but it's also, what do you want to do next? Where do you want to go? Are you looking to get into a new market? and you haven't sold a global brand there, how can our data help you go out there and identify new brands in different markets and sell to them? And I think that world's very fascinating.
And this is something that football clubs are not take advantage at full, you think? Or?
I don't think that football clubs take advantage of that fully, because one, you have to request it from us, all of our privacy laws and everything. But once you have that data, a lot of people don't know necessarily what to do with it. And imagine if you went in today and someone handed you a list of here's all the brands that your fans like in the UK, a million light bulbs would go off. But a lot of times the question back to us is, okay, now what do I do with these brands? Mm-hmm. And for us, we want to go, okay, what are your objectives? Like, we're not the football club, we're the platform that's helping you reach all of these people. But let's use this data to help you make better decisions and hopefully help you make more money.
Okay, but there is one thing behind and related to that. That is, for example, the organic reach of Facebook. The organic reach has been reducing, and you maybe can think that you have 40 million fans in Facebook on your football club and you're going to reach all of them. That's not true. But maybe these insights can help you to be more precise and more rich. That's a real opportunity. That's something. Why this happened in the organic reach, and why? Yeah. What football clubs needs to do to confront this situation?
Yeah. So organic reach, it's organically going down, right? It's not a lever that Facebook is pulling or anything like that. If you think about it, the average person has about 1,500 stories on Facebook they could see a day, and they end up being served about 350 because that's all that they could take in as a human in the amount of time that they're spending on Facebook every day. So it's more competition for the newsfeed. If you're thinking there's 1.5 billion people every month and now 1 billion people on Facebook every day, they're all publishing multiple stories a day. The average football club does 13, 14 posts a day and translates them all into, on average, 7 languages. And so that's just one page. And so now you're competing against everyone else in the ecosystem. And what's most important in this ecosystem is the connection between real people. So Facebook was created because of you and your friends and how you want to connect with them. And then that's grown, and we've just happened to continue listening to our users to build a platform that's scaled globally. And then now we've got their interest in there, and their interest is football. It might be some artists that they listen to. And now you're competing with friends. And so one of the things that what we always say is when we're thinking about it is a lot of the football clubs, sports, and especially entertainment does this terribly, is they use it purely as a marketing channel. And we always say, imagine if your friends started posting, buy this ticket today, watch this video, download this single, what would you do? You'd probably unfriend them. And so these people, the users on Facebook are looking at the clubs and looking at the entities and the brands as real people. And you have to treat them in that way. And I think that's where some of the hardships, I would say, with the algorithm kick in, is because people are using these big channels just to market to them. When in actuality, they need to build that one-to-one relationship with them, which Facebook allows at scale.
Part of make this create relationship is providing interesting things and relevant things. And one of those things maybe is the content that we produce. We are somehow limited because we have already sold our broadcasting rights and stuff like that. But you have been working extensively with entertainment, with other sports, etc., etc. What content is relevant for a football fan beyond the highlight? Because we cannot use the highlight every day, and we cannot be having conferences with Cristiano Ronaldo every day. What other things that we must look at?
I think let's look at the game first. So if you're looking at the game, what we've seen is the biggest conversation starts right when the squad's announced. So we saw, as Julian was saying, it used to be people were just typing out who the squad lineup was. Then they went to photo, and now because video on Facebook is so massive, they switched it to exactly what you see on TV. But then they come back and just do, text, oh, I scored a goal, or whoever scored a goal. And then they go dead silent once the match is over, or they do a photo gallery. And what we've seen that there's 3 moments during a match that someone should pay attention, and the club should really be involved. One is the lineup announcement. 2 are the highlights during the match, because at the end of the day, the fan doesn't want minute-by-minute updates. Like we've seen this time and time again. They want to see what are the big moments, and those tend to be, it's start of the second half, it's full time, it's a goal, it's a penalty, whatever those are, that's what fans want. And they want you to share that content so they can all aggregate around it and have a conversation. But then the biggest moment is when people are either really upset or really happy at the end of the match. And that's normally always when clubs go dead silent. And one of the ones that we went really hard with this on was Arsenal, and created, if you go after any home match on their Facebook page, within an hour of the game ending, they do the final whistle. And so it's a 2-3 minute video show on Facebook where they have a player that comes in, they get interviewed for 2 minutes with questions from Facebook, Instagram, and they talk about the match. And so now, if they're trending, this content's always at the top. You have to look for those opportunities to be a part of the conversation instead of trying to create one on your own, right? Everyone's got their routine every single day. They might wake up, take a shower, check Facebook, go to work. You have to be a part of that routine, so you need to interject yourself into the conversation that's happening. Outside of the match, people love training, people love seeing the announcements and all that fun stuff, but where I think there's a big missed opportunity is being able to work on the broader football ecosystem, because a lot of times with the clubs, they're so afraid of getting the footballers to do things, they're afraid of working with the pundits or any of the legends, but at the very center of that is the club. And then the next level of fans that you can get is going to come from the players. And then the next level is coming from the brands, and then the legends and the broadcasters.
It's an ecosystem.
And the ecosystem. And I think if clubs can work more closely with the ecosystem, they're not only going to reap the benefits on engagement, but they're going to get more data, be able to sell more commercial opportunities to these fans, because there's so many more out there than just those who like their page. We have almost 500 million football fans on Facebook each month, and on Instagram, it's 1 out of 10 people are connected to a football account on there. So the opportunity is huge. But if you're a club and you only have 10 million people on there, but one of your players might have 20 million, we can see, there's a good one that we were looking at where the club actually had 30-something million. The player has 25, but only 1.5 million of the players' fans actually like the club. And so that's a big opportunity right there, yes. Because the average sport fan likes 6 players, 5 clubs, and 1 league. And so, you have to remember there's a hardcore fan and then there's a casual fan. The casual fan can't name, the best 11 or anything like that. You're lucky that they know a few of the top players and they might know a couple of the clubs. And so that casual fan is liking tons of players, tons of clubs, and now it's up to you to go and use the leverage for who you've paid for, which is your player.
Is that the tone of voice is important, because you usually follow people, and players are people. Football clubs have no people.
Yeah.
What did football clubs need to change in the way that they talk to the fan, the tone and manner of the communication?
Yeah, so we always say, fans on Facebook see the clubs as people. That's no surprise, right? They will bleed for them. And we think it's really important that, one, you take the values of the club and turn it into a voice, and that voice needs to stay consistent with all posts. When you have a commercial post, you shouldn't change your tone or the way you're speaking just because now you have a sponsor post, because at the end of the day, that sponsor post written in a different tone is actually going to decrease your engagement, because fans are going to go, oh, this isn't the club, they're just required to do this. So then they'll stop engaging with the post. You need to be able to find your voice and then create content that stays with that voice while still knowing that you have to do commercial commitments, etc. But what's best for those fans? What I've found a lot is that a lot of the clubs are hiring journalists to run their pages, and they write Facebook updates or even Instagram updates, which is even more fascinating, as if it's a news article. They'll put, watch this video, and every time there's a video, they'll say, watch this video. And it's like the fan sees it's a video. You don't need to tell them it's a video. But you have to talk to them as if they're a person. And I think if you're writing for a newspaper, that doesn't translate to a Facebook post. There's other tools on Facebook that work for writing that type of content.
That's a good example, because Facebook is not only Facebook. Things are getting more streamlined and more straight. Instagram, for example. Instagram, we were talking, I think it has more engagement than Facebook, and it's just pictures.
Yeah, so Instagram content, it goes so well. People love photos, right? If you think about a lot of the footballers, they don't have to worry about what they're going to say. They just have to worry about posting the right photo. And the thing that works the best that we've seen in sports is we say just better together. So the moment there's a photo with more than one person in it, it just explodes on Instagram. And we think that what's really key there is that Instagram's built to download so quickly the photos. Everyone used to say, why is it square? And now we rolled out to do vertical and horizontal images, but you can't zoom in on them. And it's because when you're thinking about the hundreds of millions of people around the world who are using it, their service is only X capacity. And so we have to get that photo to you so quickly. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget when they're working with Facebook or Instagram, is that we're managing such a large audience that if we do something to aggregate an audience on Facebook, we have 1.5 billion people to upset. And so all the stuff that we're doing is based off of the feedback that we get from the users. I'll never forget when photos launched on Facebook. We didn't have photos, and what we saw was people were changing their profile picture to show where they were. And so that we do hacks overnight where engineers got together, and literally they go from about 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. They get pizza, everyone comes together, they have these ideas, and they build a prototype. And photos came out, and then they launched the next day.
Yes.
And then we got the feedback. People wanted to upload multiple photos. People wanted to tag friends. And so the product continued to evolve. And that's the way we think about everything at Facebook, is we need to launch something, get the feedback, and then continue to build it based on how users are using it.
That's the thing, because the problem is that, this is what we say, football clubs are not startup companies. They don't have this approach and this thing. It's the same question that we have for Steve. If there are something that the clubs needs to change beyond the competences, beyond that you need maybe journalists who type, who don't put video or stuff like that, thinking about culture and strategic vision, what do you think a football club needs to approach this type of to be successful as Facebook?
There's two things. The first one is I've seen that a lot of times digital is seen as a service instead of part of the core business. And digital is part of the core business. You know, it's like when you're separating newspapers from TV or even all of the traditional media, and then you put social media in a different bucket. You know, the worlds have collided and they're blended, and you have to treat it that way. You don't put together a marketing plan and go, let me ask the social guy for just this piece if he's not part of the whole thing. That's one thing. The other thing is, I would say and advise to take more risks, because so many things where things could be so much better is if there was less fear. And there's a lot of fear around posting something that the media might pick up or that someone's going to take negatively, when in actuality, a lot of the things that they're afraid about only affects a very small amount of people in a region, but yet these are huge global brands. And a lot of people will not know what the Mirror is in the UK or even outside the UK for that matter. And you have to think about that. You have to, yes, react locally, but you have to think with a global brand. And if you're not thinking globally, we see that your numbers aren't going to grow, your engagement's not going to get there, you're not going to get the commercial opportunity. And it's just really important to take more risk and, you know, forget about, you know, the fear that you have sometimes about what someone in traditional media might say.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of fear, and also the problem is that always this fear, you transmit that fear to your ecosystem. That is important about the players, for example. There are these guidelines that clubs are throwing up to the players. What are the things that really the player don't need to do? Because if you start giving all the rules, the guys feel like this and they do nothing, you know. And then what are the really things that the player need to understand to join a social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram? Because you have a lot of terror stories that you were telling me. What really is the thing?
Yeah, I think what we just try to tell everyone is, you know, you have to get them in the mindset that whatever they do is public. And so one of the things that we did was created a separate app on Facebook just for celebrities, public figures, that when they go in there, everything they do is public. So there's no wondering, am I on my personal profile, or am I on my public page? And I think we try to get people to understand whatever you're putting out there, someone's going to see. You have to give them a little bit of that fear, but you also have to let them understand it, because if they don't, then they're going to go post something that, you know, the club might go, hey, you shouldn't have done that, and then now they'll never post again. And I think they're so used to, when it comes to social media, they're so used to hearing, don't do this, don't do that, when a lot of times I think the conversation should be shifted as to, here's the great things we think you should do. I always hear from a lot of the footballers that they want to post a lot of pictures of them, you know, playing golf or going go-karting, or even just, there was a thing that was really popular on Instagram that was called I woke up this way. It was a hashtag, and it was everyone when they woke up in the morning, they would take a photo and post it with that hashtag. A lot of conversation. And a lot of the footballers were told no, they can't do that because the clubs didn't like how they looked in the morning. And the only difference was some of them that have long hair, their hair wasn't done, right? And so there's nothing actually detrimental to that. And I think people want to connect with them just like they connect with their friends, but you have to provide reasonable guidelines as to what they can do. Otherwise, they just shut down. And what we end up finding is they have a private Instagram or Facebook account and don't tell anyone, and then the club asks to remove it, but it's their own private account.
It's impossible to do that. Who has less fear, the club or the sponsor? Who is pushing the limits here? Based on your experience, you are working a lot with them.
Yeah, I think the brands should have less fear, but I think the brands don't always know the best content to publish that's going to talk to real people. I remember sitting at CA and we were doing all these deals for a lot of our artists, and the brand still cared about the size of their logo. And it was like, the size of the logo isn't going to get someone to buy your product more. Fans see the brand as access. So how can the brand provide access? One of the things we did with Samsung and Wayne Rooney, I remember, was he was opening up the Manchester store, and they were going to go and do traditional interviews, and they wanted everything to live on the Samsung page. And we sat there and said, you're spending all this money to sponsor Wayne, and he's got way more. I think he's 10x, actually no, 100x in theirs, because they were only at like 300,000. He's almost 30 million. And so we're like, you spent all this money, but you're not even activating his fans. So we came up with one side pushing traditional media to do what they needed to do. We created a video series with him at the store here that lived on both Samsung's page, and then unique stuff went to Wayne's page. And so now the Samsung brand was brought into Wayne's territory, where he had his almost 30 million fans. And I think that's where it gets interesting, is these brands need to do things where the fans are, and need to do things that speak directly to the fans.
To the fan.
Yeah.
Well, that's maybe because, in football clubs, we always have these mature business models, and we are looking always to our own belly and trying to do things like that way. One trend that goes with that is this thing that it says, it's me who has to have the fans in Facebook. I don't own the fans in Facebook because I don't have the email, I don't have the access. So there is all this trend that came from many years ago that says, many people say, no, you don't have to be in Facebook. You can have Facebook, but you have to develop your own CRM. You have to develop your own Facebook. Your Barcelona Facebook, your Arsenal Facebook. It's a standalone proprietary tool inside the club for CRM.
Everyone wants ownership.
Everyone ownership. It is something that is logical. This is a trend. Nowadays, there are big football clubs that are closing deals with big technology companies and for sponsorship, and part of those deals are based on that, create the ownership CRM system.
Yeah.
It is something logical. It is something that...
I think there's two parts here. I think one is, Facebook has built a platform to allow anyone, whether it's a club, a footballer, a brand, a musician, to come on board and utilize all the tools. Everyone has the same access to all the different tools on Facebook. We don't build something out because you're bigger or smaller or spend more money. Everyone has the same access to the tools. So we've listened to the audience, and we've built this huge community of 1.5 billion. And now that they're here, I think what you've seen in earlier presentations is people want you to tell your fans, like, we're here, and drive traffic to them. I think that's where Facebook was 11 years ago when we started, was going, hey, we need you to drive traffic to Facebook. Tell your fans you're on Facebook. But then now, over the last decade, we've become the biggest country, the biggest web destination, et cetera. And now that they're here, it's up to the entity, so in this case the club, to decide what do they want those fans to do. Do they want them to engage with the content on Facebook? Do they want to take them and have them sign up for CRM? Do they want them to buy something? The fans are there. You now need to take them and bring them into where you want them to go next. But one of the things that I would say is, when you think about why Facebook's grown, it's because of the feedback that we've gotten. We've given people a unique opportunity to talk to their friends, talk to their family, and talk about things that interest them. If you're taking them out of their routine, you better have a really amazing reason as to why they should break their routine and go into your experience. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, we see it that the world is mobile first, but a lot of people haven't built mobile websites, or they think the app is the be all end all. Yeah. But getting someone to download an app and keep using it is really hard. We know it. We've created apps that don't always work, and we kill it and take the technology and use it on something else. But you need to think, great, I've gotten someone over to my website, or I've gotten someone over to my CRM tool. Now what am I doing with this data? Them clicking share my data with you, that's a big move for them. And now you have their trust. And what are you going to do with that? And I think that's where a lot of the clubs need to step up, is if you're getting them to share your data, that's a big move for them. What are you doing to keep them there?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're discussing, clubs are talking about all this CRM, but we are receiving the same emails, without personalization.
Yeah, and the other thing too, back on the web, the mobile websites, is we've seen on average a mobile website takes about 7 to 9 seconds to load, and that's already 5 to 7 seconds too long for most mobile users. And so we sit there and go, no one. I always forget the phrase, but something like no one's problem is someone else's problem, something like that. And so we are helping out like the news industry with that, where we take all this traffic, we're the #1 referral of traffic on the web, but they can't see your content. And so we sat there and said, how do we help you get your content back in front of these people that we're driving traffic to? And so we created instant articles, which is in a test now, where so you have like The Guardian and Nat Geo, who publish thousands of articles a day. They load directly in Facebook. And so someone sees it, they tap it, the whole article's there. There's a rev share model, so they're still making their money. And at the same time, we're doing the deals with ComScore and all the tracking companies so that their web traffic doesn't drop, so that they can still sell it, but now with the new traffic that they're getting from Facebook.
You have make all the circle completed. That's a good idea. At the end of the day, but Facebook is a big CRM system. The thing is that you are offering the clubs the possibility to use all your insights to make, for example, a sponsor post and try a sponsor message, and use all the insights that are very powerful to have in Facebook. But there's a problem of knowledge. Clubs don't know that.
And there's so many tools even just outside of insights. You know, we heard from a lot of our partners that they didn't like that during a live match that the post would still show up in newsfeed after the match was over. And so we rolled out to everyone what we call post end date time. So you can go when you're making your post, you can select a date and time, and that post stops showing up in newsfeed. You know, some people go, oh, but that's going to decrease my engagement, et cetera, because it doesn't have a shelf life of forever, and now that shelf life might only be the 90 minutes of the match. But we're giving people more control of the content they're posting.
It's a thing of knowledge and understand how to use the tools. Are there any questions, please, from the audience?
It's always the quiet part out here is the questions. Questions are always quiet here. We've got one.
There's a question there. Sir, please.
Hi, it's Casper from One Football. Just one question. You mentioned that from the 30 million Wayne Rooney followers, you did this Samsung piece and posted it on the Wayne Rooney page. How many actually of those 30 million engaged with that Samsung piece, or on average with those brand pieces?
Yeah, it really changes. So I would say on Wayne, I mean, on a lot of football, I will say we tend to see when it's the individual footballer, a lot of their content will actually reach more people than like their page. Like a good example, like Aaron Ramsey, like his posts generally reach more people than like the 5 million people that like his page. Every content is different, but if you're talking about commercial content, there are things that actually we learn from the habits of the fans. And so with commercial, you tend to see less engagement because the fan goes, I'm okay seeing this content, but why aren't you showing it to me as an ad? Like, you're taking advantage of this spot in my news feed, I don't want to see it. So we look at negative feedback from users, and that negative feedback might be that they're hiding a post or they're completely ignoring the post. And so what we're trying to do is get the best content that you're publishing in front of those people, and if there is a brand content or a commercial opportunity, that content better be just as good, or they should just be, you know, promoting it, right? Because then the user gets used to that. We don't want a user to go, oh wow, all they do is market to me, so now I see a fourth commercial post and they click the button and click hide all. Because now there's no way for you to get that user back. And so we're trying to prevent people from clicking hide all, which is why tone of voice, the way you write, the quality of your content is ever so important.
That's a very important, there's a point inside all this thing that is the iterations that is happening, because these gentlemen have launched Facebook, but they are, are you listening? They are testing every time what people is using, what they are not using, how they are behaving, and taking that information in real time, they are reshaping in real time the product. The things that happen in usual companies or football clubs that is that we launch the website or we launch the app and we don't touch it in, don't know, 6 months, 1 year,
or longer than
that.
Normally.
Longer than that. So that's not possible. You don't grow to 1 billion users. You don't grow to a streamlined application, launching the thing and leaving it go. You created it. You developed it.
And I think there's another tool too that we saw is you know, you think your fans like everything you're doing, but you might be posting about a car sponsor. And so maybe instead of showing that post to everyone, maybe you target your fans who like cars. We saw this with BuzzFeed, right? BuzzFeed posts a ton of content on Facebook. All generally goes viral, except this one post that they made about this rapper Kendrick Lamar, and it bombed. No one engaged with it because the people that saw it first did not like Kendrick Lamar, started doing negative feedback, hiding the post. So what they ended up doing was reposting it, but they targeted their fans that like Kendrick Lamar. And this is a free tool, so if you go in and post on Facebook, you can select all of these different targeting mechanisms. And the post blew up because the initial people who saw it were people that were already interested in Kendrick. And so from there, they decided to share it, and their friends got to see it, and it just exploded from there. And that's the thing is a lot of the content that's being shared on Facebook, when you post it, videos, it's 53% of all views on Facebook come from shares. Not because they saw it on your post, but because someone clicked share on your page and put it on their own personal profile.
That's why the product needs to be shareable and
Yep.
needs to be interesting. Yes.
And it needs to be mobile. Most
Mobile.
people are on mobile.
Mobile.
Yeah.
Because I think that nowadays no one thinks in mobile concepts,
No,
and
because out of
mobile interfaces.
out of all of our people, I think it's 1.3 billion out of them are on mobile every month. So that's more than a majority of our users.
Another question. The gentleman there, yes. There it goes, the microphone. Yes.
Hi Glenn, Neil from Shot Glass Media.
Yep.
I wonder if you could share any information on Content ID system in terms of video. How
Yeah.
far away is it?
So
How's it gonna be rolled
if
out?
you go, so everyone can bookmark this page, media.fb.com. We put all of our announcements on there. We also put best practices up there. We announced last week that we're testing out our Content ID system with a few US partners because we're starting video monetization, and we know that before we do that, we need to make sure there's Content ID. So we have just started it, and it's with a very few number of people in the US, and then it'll continue to roll out from there. But video for us is brand new when you think about it. December 2013, we had no one working on video. All it was like a button on Facebook, and you hope when someone uploaded a video file, it actually worked. And then now, fast forward, our last number was April, which was 4 billion views a day. We had 3 engineers working on it, and it's just exploded from there. So this is something that we're ramping up really quickly, and we know we need to continue developing tools, and we'll get there, and we'll get there really quickly as we do with most things. But it does take time for us to get there, especially because we shift so much and see where the opportunity is, and then take a team off of one project, move them to over here. So it's very fascinating.
No, it's fascinating, and
Yeah.
the way that is progressing.
You're always on
but
your toes.
All the time and always working. All the time and always working. There is another one, or? Yes?
Right there.
The lady, please. Madam.
Virginie Bernard from Laurus. You talked earlier about the instant article. I'm quite interested on that. Do you have any timeline on where you will be launching that and where we will be able to start to use it?
Yeah, so we're still working. So it's in, we're moving to beta mode. So we were in alpha the last couple months, and we're moving to beta mode. We don't have the exact timeline yet as to when it'll be available more broadly, but we are signing up more partners. The key thing there is, how many articles do you publish? Can you build a sustainable system to get these articles ingested into Facebook? And then how does the sales mechanism work? Because we all know with the ever-changing EU laws, we always need to be on our toes and deal with all the privacy and the data requests and everything. But we don't have an exact timeline as when we'll move out of beta into the open market. But there is a website, I think it's instantarticles.fb.com, and you can see all the information there, and I think they even take requests as well, so there's some people who are interested in it there.
Thank you. Someone else? I have one question that, because I can try recollecting some idea. We were talking about the stadium. There is another trend. The one is the trend of the CRM, and I want to have ownership, and the other trend in football clubs is the connected stadium experience. And we are expending in football clubs a lot of money in connected and provide Wi-Fi, because we are telling the people that we have been told that people is going to use extensively social media. But you have been mentioning that Facebook is for Facebook, that is one of the bigger ones, is just for the beginning, the middle, and the end of the game. So is this Facebook for the fan who goes to the stadium, or is for the fan who stays at home?
So it's for both. So I think when you're at home, those are the moments that you want. And when you're in the stadium, you want to share your emotions, you want bragging rights, all those things that add value. What we've seen though is that it started out that people wanted to put text on the LED boards if they even had LED boards. And what we saw is text actually doesn't increase engagement. It has zero impact on what you're doing in a stadium. Instagram, interestingly enough, people share so many photos. That's an amazing mechanism to put on the screens, is because you want people showing their excitement. You don't want it to say like, go England, Glenn Miller. Like, no one, at the end of the day, people don't really care about that. What we've seen actually this move towards are a couple things. One is aggregate information. So we've done it at, with Champions League, we've done it at their final, Formula One. and it's ranking the conversation. So it's which team is going to win. And so I remember last year in Lisbon, there's more conversation happening around Atletico than there was around Real Madrid on Facebook. And it was something like 70 to 30%. And that being shown on the LED boards made the Real fans go, I need to post more. And then it made the Atletico fans go, yeah, we're winning, need to post more here. And so you've gotten people to engage with your content. The other part of that was that Formula One doing the racers and how they actually were stacking up on conversation, because you could see as the race was happening, people moving up and down depending on what was happening. And that got people to engage with your content. And that's what I think you need to think about when you're doing the connected stadium is, what's your end goal? If it's just to put a message up there, go sell it to a sponsor. Yeah. But if you're trying to get people to create more content, engage with your brand, then let's come up with the creative things. And we work with a lot of tools. We have internal tools for free things to create what we call InstaWall. So it's a plugin, you just type in a hashtag, approve a bunch of photos, automatically powers all your screens. Same we did it with Man City and their Tunnel Cam, because their Tunnel Cam some of the most watched content that they have. And we take over their screens and show all Instagram photos of their fans. And if you imagine, if it's photos, then next it moves to everyone clapping. And so if you're walking out, you're getting the cheer before you actually walk into the stadium, because there's more fans who can't be there. The other side of that, though, is the technology. We know when you go into most stadiums, you don't have access to internet. So we've been working on some like Facebook Wi-Fi things that allow, if you've got let's say you've brought internet into the stadium, but you want to know how to let people connect. We have these little routers that you can plug in and let people sign in free through Facebook, and they automatically check in to your venue. So now you create a whole nother conversation. Or we've been testing out beacons, where you just set up different beacons around the stadium, and as long as they have Bluetooth, they walk by, connect to it, and you can push out any content. They can interact with it. So we're creating our own opportunities, but we're using our API and third-party partners out there to develop really creative stuff. But again, I think what's really important is the aggregate and what do you want to get out of it, instead of just putting a message up there.
Okay. Oh, at the end of the day, it's about behavior, it's about analyzing what people is doing and work over that, not just all the assumptions and about what do you think that from your own vision of club needs to be done. Well, it has been a very great conversation, Glenn. I appreciate very much. Please give an applause to Glenn. He's also going to be around here, so please join him, approach and talk about him. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end. Thank you very much. I think it has been a very interesting afternoon. There are a lot of things that we have learned. The most important thing to keep in mind is that it's not all about techniques and about things and little stuff that you need to do in football clubs. Maybe it's a big change about the culture and about the way that you do things, okay? That's important to take in account, and there is a big change ahead, so let's go. Have a nice afternoon and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you very much.